Happy Devils Monday! This is the special edition of the Woo Report. I am your host, Sam Woo, here with Short Sky. Beer Baron is actually stuck on ice right now in the storm that just came in at 8 o'clock Eastern. He's stuck somewhere in his car with his family in that big ice storm in New Jersey. No, I just made that up, but he's actually late to the
He'll be
podcast.
here soon. He'll be here soon.
I just threw him under the bus. I had to throw him under
Yeah.
the bus. Yeah. Big things happening today, Shorts guy. Let's
I
see.
know.
I worked about 14 hours today. I talked to a couple people. Do you think we should address the elephant in the room? Is there something happened today around 5 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, I heard some news. The Devils did something. I forget what it was. What was it, Sam? I forget what the Devils did today.
I don't know. Let's see. Well, they had Winterfest yesterday. I know they had that.
Oh, that's a big deal. That's why
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's a Winterfest breaking news podcast.
yeah. So, yeah, Taylor Hall got traded today.
Yep.
Finally, it's over. It's done with. We're going to go into a lot of details tonight. This is a 2 hour special edition of the Woo Report on the Let's Go Devils podcast network, all powered by Nova Product Design from Primetime Radio. We have special guests tonight. Kevin Clark, Devils PAA announcer, will chime in. Also from Pucks and Pitchforks blog, Tyler Kelly. He's a contributor at the Pucks and Pitchforks. He will come on a little bit later. And also, for the first time in history, via studio, we're going to satellite link down to Florida. Nick Villano will be coming up in the next hour of this podcast, the Woo Report on the Let's Go Devils podcast network. Yeah, so as we're waiting for Beer Baron to join us, the trade, why don't you go over the details, Shorts guy? Who did the
Yeah.
Devils get? Who did the Devils send? Obviously Taylor Hall, but just let's get that out of the way right now.
All right. And that's what I've been scribbling down. This is probably the most homework I've done for a podcast in a long time. All right. So the trade is this. Taylor Hall send or the Devils. The Devils send Taylor Hall and Blake Spears to Arizona. Which I'm going to be honest, I thought with the call up of Mikey McLeod, he may have been on the block, which would have broken Beer Baron's heart. But anyway, Taylor Hall and Blake Spears goes to Arizona. Devils in return get 3 prospects. I'll address them first because the picks get a little bit weird. So you have Kevin Ball, a defenseman, a 6'9" defenseman, or excuse me, 6'7" defenseman, 6'7", 230 pounds, lefty. Guy's huge. So that's good. Drafted 55th overall, 19 years old. Nick Merkley. I hope I'm saying that right. He's a center, first rounder, 30th overall, 22 years old, 5'10", 195. And the one I didn't get to, Nate Schneer, 20 years old, 6'3", 180-pound center. Both Nick Merkley and Schneer are centers that are currently in the AHL, doing okay. Ball is still down with the Ottawa 67s, but is current teammates with Graham Clark. I'm going to screw this one up. Mitchell Holscher and Nikita Okatuk. All right, so those are the actual physical players that went. So here are the picks. First round, which is conditional for 2020. If the Arizona pick is in the top 3, we do not get it. If it's 4 through 30, we get it. Otherwise, we get their pick in 2021. So Arizona's got to finish worse than us, or at least in the top, whatever it is, 10, 8 that goes into the draft. After that, we are guaranteed a 3rd overall. That 3rd turns into a 2nd if either Arizona wins a playoff round or Hall resigns, and it turns into a 1st if they win a playoff round and Hall also resigns. Yeah, that's
a lot.
That is a lot. Beer Brown, what's up, man? I'm even having a beer on this weeknight.
Nothing much. Sorry for the delay of getting on. A lot of running around and stuff to do. A lot of catching up. Been trying to go on social media to catch up. That was a good rundown. I have to say, there's a lot of people that are saying that they're disappointed with the haul. No pun intended. But to be honest with you, like you couldn't have expected, a heck of a lot more. I think Shiro got a decent deal out of the situation, considering the roadblocks of not having Taylor Hall signed beyond the end of this year and not knowing what he wants to do. And it seems like, by all accounts, he wants to test free agency, even if he, has a good run in Arizona. So who knows that,
And here's been the thing, like, what exactly were we going to get for who is essentially a rental player? There's no team that was going to give us top level talent in exchange for a rental player. And you have so many fans out there that are losing their minds. Fire Shiro, the team's in the tank, this, that, who's next, who's getting, it's all doom and gloom. What were you going to get for a player who, by all intents and purposes, was not going to resign here? And we may have gotten less at the trade deadline if people knew that we were, looking to unload. And we could have caught a team that was desperate, but if a team that's desperate and needing someone for a playoff run is not going to give a whole heck of a lot, if they got a team that's working, they're going to give a lot less for a player like him. So as far as I'm concerned, this is probably one of the best situations we got, because in reality, who was going to give up the house for a rental?
Well, see, but that's the issue, and I think that's what a lot of people are going to argue is, do you hold on to him until the trade deadline when teams do become a little bit more desperate, where they are willing to give up more of a cachet for what Taylor Hall is, and essentially nailed it. There's a very strong chance he's going to be a rental to whatever team that we were going to send him to. And, all joking aside, like last night, we're having fun. I mean, it gets old talking about the same thing. And, I apologize because I might have offended, a few people by making some jokes, but it's all jokes. But all that aside, I do have to say, like, the reality is it just got to the point where I know for all of us here, we were kind of sick and tired of talking about it. And it got to the point where you talk about it and you talk about it and you talk about it. And now that it's done and over with, it's done. Whatever return we got back. I think Kevin Ball is going to be a legitimate piece to this team going forward. I see a lot of people that were saying, could possibly be a top 4 defenseman or top 4 pairing. That's great. The kid's got a huge size. There's a lot of people that compared him to Zdeno Chara. And I mean, like, if that's what this kid ends up turning into, then I'm all about this trade.
And let's not forget, all of this was acquired for Adam Larson.
Essentially, isn't that weird if you flip that around? Yeah.
Hey, I just want to also add in the point as well. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
This is more than just a trade. This is Ray Shero sending a message, changing the culture of the franchise immediately, that this is unacceptable. That even a Hart Trophy winner, Taylor Hall, is on the block and can be moved. Nobody's untouchable. That sends a message. And also, on top of that, you've got to think that Ray Shiro's on the hot seat right now with management. I know that he probably has a contract that probably would keep him there for a while, but something has to happen, and this had to happen. Let's we're going to be talking a lot in details of who the Devils got in this, but this sends a message to the entire organization. Anybody can be replaced and be traded. That's all I wanted to just point out.
Yeah, but before you go, Sam, I want to add to that. That's a really valid point, and it kind of does put everybody on blast of like, hey, listen, anything can happen. Like Shorts Guy says it all the time about Adam Henrique. When Adam Henrique got traded, it was like that was it. that was it. Like we had, one of the most popular players on the team moved. So that means anybody could be moved. And this move with Taylor Hall, I don't know if it necessarily was like, hey, I'm going to send a message to everybody, or if it was he wanted out of this situation and it was just time for a change. And just like any bad breakup, I mean, things like this happen. You're in a good situation. And then the next thing you know, things start turning sour. You're both not happy, and you have to turn the page. And it's unfortunate because Taylor Hall brought us a lot of really, really good moments. And that trade 1-for-1 with Adam Larson was probably one of the most exciting moments in the last, I don't know, 10 years, not 10 years, but the last like 6-7 years for this team. And it never ended up being what we wanted it to be. And it's unfortunate, but that's just what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really curious to see what happens when the Devils take the ice as a team for the next game, which I'm completely blanking on, so I'm looking up now.
Well, they play Wednesday. I'm blanking on the team as well.
Yeah, Wednesday, Anaheim at home. So the return of Adam Henrique, just shortly after a trade like this. So I am very curious to see how the Devils respond to this, what the team looks like, what if there's a change in the locker room, because there were rumors that he wasn't good in the locker room. So what does this do? We did get a win when he was held out of the team. Out of the 2 games he was held out of the team, we got at least 1 win. So now what's left is to see how the team responds, to see if they try to work these kids in at all, or if they're kind of like, wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, we're getting this massive human being and a defenseman, and we still have Ty Smith coming up too. So if this kid's a decent defensive prospect, we may be stronger on defense, coming up quicker than we thought we would be, which, let's not beat around the bush. Defense was an issue. We needed defense. And, he may not be NHL ready, but you know what? It could be a start. And there was really not a lot more than we were going to get, in this type of situation.
Agreed. And it looks like,
he may have been better served if he wasn't going to stick around this season, requesting a trade over the summer.
Well, I feel like, so there's a really good point that was brought up. Christopher in the Facebook group said, I'm curious if there's more trades to come. And Tim Clark Callahan, fan favorite, he said, if there are any more trades, they'll be more close to the deadline. I agree with that. I honestly feel like there is definitely, if the team continues on this trajectory where they're not producing, they're not winning, by all means, start getting as many assets as you can. People tend to forget, like, a rebuild takes time, and even though you're in the midst of a rebuild, doesn't mean like, oh, everything's set in place. I think they have the right pieces, and I feel like there's a lot of really good, solid foundational things like Nico, like Jack Hughes. I hope and pray that they don't trade Kyle Palmieri. And we talked about this last night, that's one guy that I really do not want to see go. I mean, I know Miles Wood I've heard is on the block. Simmons might be on the block. Hell, even PK might be on the block, which I hope doesn't get moved, because I want to see him mature a little bit more with this team. But who knows? There could be a move in the next week. There could be a move this week before the holiday freeze. But right now, the biggest one just happened. So,
yeah, and it seems like there was a lot riding on this getting done, and then other business can be taken care of. It's just it was.
Number 9.
I'm going to be honest with you, Barrett. I was, and not just to make fun of you, but I was thinking that McLeod was brought up just to potentially be a trade partner with Taylor Hall,
which wouldn't have surprised me either. And the fact that they sent out, would they send out Cini with Taylor Hall? Was that the other piece?
No, Spears,
that's right. So Spears that they sent out, and Spears he's a good prospect. He's a solid prospect. Whereas if he's given the chance, I think he could crack Arizona's lineup. who knows? I don't know, dude. It's kind of nice to have this done and over with.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it gives
we've been talking about the same thing forever.
exactly, and it gives the team. It's gonna. I feel like this could be a weight lifted off the team. You get that distraction out of the way. And we were saying last night, and like I said last night, yeah, there was a lot of goofing around and stuff like that. But it gets to the point, like I said, like we kind of get sick and tired of talking about the same thing. But you know, could this be one of those things that the team starts playing better because they don't have the distraction of Taylor Hall? Or maybe was he, such a distraction? Because if you watch that presser at the end of last year where he said, we have this, we have that, but we lack talent. As a player in the locker room, would you take that as a slap to the face? Like, what do you mean we lack talent? Like, you don't think I'm good enough to play with you?
Yeah, that's
a great point. That's a great point. I forgot about that quote.
Yeah.
He may not have been a right fit for this team. It was nice to have an MVP. That was fantastic. But if it wasn't going to work, like you said, it's like a bad breakup. If it's not going to work and both sides are unhappy, you've got to move on. It's a business. And just looking at the reactions on social media, they were like all over the place. Some people were happy. Some people were devastated. Some people were aggravated. I even saw one person saying, time to become a fan of another team, which I think that's the worst you could do. It's.
Well, I think that was a little sarcasm, though. I mean, I hate to hear it, but
I don't know. I don't know. It looked like a pretty serious thing. They even had another team lined up already that they want to like. So, it's that's the business, and we've spoken about this before, Beer Baron. As much as I love the team and I love the players, you got to love the team more than the players, because the players are temporary, the team is forever, and I get over all of that with the Kovalchuk debacle. When he was here and then all that re-signed and then retired, it's like at that point, it's like, why am I worrying about someone making millions of dollars? Because I worry about my team. That's who I want to see.
You bring up a great point because the whole Kovalchuk situation, which if anybody is keeping it close here to the
I saw that today.
NHL, he's doing it again. He's doing it to another team where he's like, "What am I in the middle of a contract? Screw my contract. I'm not happy, so I'm just gonna leave the team." I'm trying to catch up. If don't mind me because I dipped out for a second because I'm like trying to read. Our reactions on Facebook Live are going so fast and furious. It's like really, really hard to keep up. So I'm like, I'll see something, I read it, and I'm like, I try to go back. There's a lot of talk about Andy Green as being maybe not the greatest captain. I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. There's some times where I feel like Andy Green is a great captain, and there's sometimes where I miss the leadership of like Scott Stevens, who could kill a man by looking at him the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like, there's different types of captains. Like Jamie Langenbrunner was a different type of captain than Andy Green. Andy Green seems more reserved, or maybe he's a lead by example type of guy. I don't think we can necessarily say that he's a bad captain because we're not in the locker room. We don't hear the inside talk and stuff. So you can't, just by watching as a fan, you can't necessarily say like, dude, he's a bad captain. What's your, I guess, I don't know. What's your point to him being a bad captain? Like, why is he a bad captain? Because he's not out there screaming in people's faces? You don't know he's not doing that behind closed doors.
Yeah, we only see what goes on the ice. He could be completely different in the locker room, and just because other players don't wear the C doesn't mean that they're leaders in a different way or in that different capacity by getting in someone's face and stuff like that. So, it's. I don't know.
I hear the interview post game. Yeah, you hear the interview post game. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Michael, I'm not disagreeing that I'm not saying he's a good captain, and I'm not saying he's a bad captain. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't swing either way. It's like sometimes I'm like, yeah, he's good. Sometimes I don't think he's good. And yeah, the interviews that he gives post game are sometimes atrocious, where he's just kind of woe is me. But I don't know. My opinion, if Andy Green is not with the Devils next year, and Kyle Palmieri is, I really, really hope Palmieri becomes the first New Jersey native as a captain.
He's really the only logical choice after Green. If Green and who knows, Green could give it to him at some point. I doubt he will, but he could. But if it's not Green, it's got to be Palmieri. I know we had this. I know we had this conversation before about who we would rather be, and Palmieri is really the logical choice other than Green. So
I would
go ahead.
I know I was just gonna say I would give Palmieri the cap. Somebody said, would you give Palmieri the captaincy right now?
Totally.
Yeah, I would. 100%. That dude he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and he is 100% invested in this team. And if you don't think so, look at the goal that he scored in Arizona. That was a 7-game losing streak, and they went up 2-1, which this year doesn't mean anything because we've seen leads bigger than that blown by this team.
Yeah.
But the dude plays with his heart on his sleeve every game. He gets pissed off if I love watching Palms go in the corner with somebody and they take a dive. He gets so angry and just will start barking at the ref, but for the right reason. It's not like David Clarkson always barking at the ref, because he never thought he was guilty of a penalty. It was, a legitimate, Palms, I feel like, would be the perfect captain for this team. But he's the gritty type of player who he produces. He shows up every night.
And let's also not factor this into the account too. I mean, even if Andy Green wanted to give it up, out of respect, Palmieri may not take it from him.
True.
Because he's seen, he's just like, he's an upstanding player, and he may have that respect for Green, who's been here forever, to not take that C from him. Even if Green wants to give it up, he may not want that to be taken away from him too. So
yeah,
you got to look at that.
And somebody brought up a good point. If he gets hot and if he starts putting up big numbers, and that could be a huge trade chip for a team. I know Boston was rumored to be talking. I
don't want to see him
trying
go.
to get. Neither do I. He's just one of those guys. I felt the same way about when Henrique got traded. I was devastated. That was. I mean, all the history aside, beating the Rangers, all that kind of stuff. The Henrique gets over. It wasn't just that. He was I always felt Adam Henrique was the face of the franchise. And maybe he wasn't a superstar caliber type of player, but he was a fan favorite. And I feel like Palmieri is the same thing. He's a relatable player. He does so much good for the community. The work that he does with the military and everything else that he does. I hope this dude gets signed to a long-term contract and retires a Devil. I'm a huge Palmieri supporter and a huge Palmieri fan, and I just hope that he sticks around.
Yeah, me too. I'm totally with that. But
I like
people
chiming in about this too. It feels like everybody's on board with this, by the way. Like I said, I'm I glance down and it's just my screen keeps scrolling up and up and up.
So I know it's hard to keep up.
I do have another question for you though, and this is something that we kind of touched on last night. Mackenzie Blackwood, and it looks like we have a guest on, so we'll jump back into this conversation in a little bit. But go ahead, Sam. I see you're about to jump on.
Yeah. Before we have our next guest, we have some new viewers viewing in, and they don't really know who we are. So I just wanted to do a station ID right now, our first station ID. So let me do that. Let me get myself on the screen here. Anyway, so this is the Let's Go Devils podcast. Woo Report. We're on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, and Twitch, and also broadcasting live streaming audio on letsgodevils.com. Right now on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline, we have the Devils PA announcer that has been following the Taylor Hall saga this entire time, and he has something to say. Please welcome Kevin Clark. Kevin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on such short notice. What's your reaction about this Taylor Hall trade that just went down today?
Well, it kind of saddens me only because he brought a lot of electricity into the building, and I actually put this out on Twitter. I mean, you think back to where we were 2 seasons ago when he put the team on his back and carried us into the playoffs, and then I'll never forget. There's been, in my time behind the mic with the Devils, there's been one huge moment, and that was, of course, Henrique, it's over. But the second was Taylor Hall's goal against Tampa Bay in Game 3 in our building, and you know, the excitement and the team being relevant had been lost for a few seasons, and he pretty much by himself brought it back. And then that goal in the playoffs, you could just, people were ready to release their inner fandom, and when he scored, you know, the place just went nuts, and I'll never forget that, and I'm going to miss that. I think if he was well on his way to another season like that the last year, unfortunately sustained the injury, and things haven't been the same since. But I'm going to miss him. I like yelling out his name. He was an exciting player. I think he played hard, and you know, going to miss him. I am, and I hated to see him get traded, to be totally honest with you. But I understand the reasons why, and if you look at it as a business, which at the end of the day, it is a business, and you have to get something for, you know, such a huge asset like that. If it's not gonna, if that asset wants to leave or isn't going to re-sign, you have to get something back. And I think they got some good items back, and you know, that's to be determined as, you know, how the draft choices pan out and whatnot. But you know, at the end of the day, you got to treat it like a business, and he's no longer a New Jersey Devil, and we go forward from here and see where we go.
Kevin, this is Scott. First of all, thank you so much for joining us as always, and I want to congratulate you on your 500th game that you just recently had for the New Jersey Devils as a PA announcer. It's a huge accomplishment, and I know we kind of thanked you on Twitter and on all the social media, but we want to thank you in person as well, and congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. It was a, you know, I try not to be selfish with these things, but that night it was a little bit selfish for me. It was a big night, you know, and I mentioned this on the podcast several times, but a guy who used to be a season ticket holder, you know, I'd sit in the stands at Continental Airlines Arena and listen to Bob Arcina, and I'm like, you know, this guy's got the luckiest job in the world, and then luckily I was able to somehow end up in his seat, you know, down the road a little bit, and then not only to do one game for the Devils, for my favorite team, but to be able to do 500 is just a dream come true, especially for, you know, a guy who's not really the brightest bulb in the lamp. So to be able to stick around and be able to do that job, and the dream job that it is something I'm very, very proud of, and it is an honor to. And I don't say that lightly. It is a definite honor to sit in that seat and continue the legacy that Bob Arcina started in 1982 and held for so many years. And, you know, I'm hoping I'm doing it proud, and I know that I love it. I love it every night, and I hope it shows.
Kevin, shorts guy. So the point you made was perfect. You know, as a team and as a fan base, you know, we move forward from here. You know, I'm assuming you're, you know, like you said, you're going to miss calling Hall's name, and I haven't looked too far ahead in the schedule yet, but you know, it's going to be, you know, interesting. Just like when Henrique came back, you know, seeing that guy on the opposite side of the of your announcer's sheet that I'm sure you get, you know, to potentially call him as scoring or assisting on a goal against. That's got to be something very, very interesting, especially for what you're doing for the team.
Well, some guys you like to see come back. Guys that didn't really leave, you know, on their the decision wasn't theirs. Guys like Henrique and now Taylor Hall. Some guys you're still mad at, because they were the face of the franchise and decided to leave, and also wore number 9. So I think you know where I'm going with that.
Exactly where you're going.
Yeah, but so I'm still mad at him, and I think he knows it. No, I'm just kidding. But these guys that leave, and it's not of their doing, and guys that were good players and played hard. You have to respect that. So when he comes back, and like when Henry came back, and then when Taylor Hall comes back, you kind of tip your hat to them, and you'd like to say thank you, and just don't score any goals and don't assist on any goals, and hopefully they get shut out. Because at the end of the day, guys, we still want the Devils to win.
You basically don't want to have to say his name. You just don't want to have to say his name all night long, unless it's a penalty.
That's true. There you go. Yeah, that I will. Yeah, I have no problem calling out a penalty on any ex number 9.
So Kevin, I got a quick question for you in regards to the whole Taylor Hall situation. Just from a fan perspective, or from your personal opinion, do you think that the Devils did it the right way by doing it now, or do you think they should have waited until the trade deadline, or do you think this kind of like ran its course and it was ready to go?
When it comes to sports and situations like this, if you wait till the bitter end, I think you lose your bargaining chip or your bargaining power. So to put it out there now and get what you can, I have no problem with that. I think that is a good move. And the fact that he didn't move right away after, he was scratched for a couple games, I think it shows you there were several teams out there that were being that were talking about making a move with the Devils. So, I think if you move earlier, you keep a little bit of the power. And, if Shiro didn't get what he wanted, Taylor Hall would still be with the team. They had that, they had that position where they didn't have to move him now. And you know what, to be honest, they really didn't have to move it at all. I keep in the back of my mind thinking, the Devils turn this around, start playing well. Hall's happy and he re-signs. But again, we know that at this point now that's not going to happen. They could turn it back around, but we know Taylor Hall will not be a part of it. So I think it's a good move. And you get to the point where with this thing, and it's been going on for quite a while, where is he going to re-sign with the Devils? Is he going to resign? Is he going to be a part of the team? And then you just get to the point, well, you know what? If he's not gonna, let's do something now.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin, you did mention something that the possibility, as slim as it may be, is always there that when he does hit free agency, if he does, he very well could re-sign here. Not that I don't know if anyone would want that, or some may not. But that potential is always there, as when you send, who essentially is a rental player, could go out and then decide to, let me re-sign back there because, maybe the free agent market is not as good as he thought. And, we still wind up retaining these picks and these prospects, and then long shot, but the possibility is always there.
Well, and half of his contract is still being paid by the Devils, so he should come back. I'm just kidding. Actually, the Devils aren't paying for the contract. But yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. And if you went on Twitter afterwards and read what he said, I guess he was on a teleconference with some of the beat writers, and he said some nice things about his time here. And I think he took the high road, and I was really glad to see that, because he could have come out and said a couple things about the way he was treated by the fan base at the end, and he chose not to. He said some really nice things about the fans, and so I'm hoping, I know at the end of the day, does it matter wins or losses, but you kind of hope he left here proud of what he had done here and happy that he had been here. And you never close the door on anything.
Kevin, I had a quick question. You may have some information. So, did the Devils brought him to Arizona? Did he fly back to New Jersey and practice by himself, and now he has to go back to Arizona? Do you know if you have information on that?
From what I read, he flew back with the team, so he was here, and then would have had to turn around today. Today, and fly back. He did say he is playing tomorrow night, wherever Arizona is and who they're playing. I don't know, but he did say he was going to be playing tomorrow night, and he was excited about that. He was not happy. You can read between the lines. He was not happy about having to sit the last couple of games, and as I believe he said, he was healthy, and when you're healthy, you want to play. So he's happy with that, and I'm sure sitting back there and not knowing what's going to happen, and I mean, these guys are people too, and now all of a sudden, I live in Arizona, so
Yeah.
he had to want to know where he was going to end up in life, and I'm sure that's a relief for him now that has been decided, at least for the next few months, anyway.
So if all this is over and said and done with, and we kind of brought up something before, would you be at all shocked if this team turned around and started putting a couple wins together and there was a different energy around the team? I can only assume that this was also weighing heavy on a lot of the guys that were in the locker room, whether it be a distraction or not, or whatever you want to call it. It was something that was in the air, and you could tell, from an outside perspective, that it looked like it was affecting the team. Do you think this kind of lightens the air a little bit? Does this kind of relieve a little bit of that pressure, the external pressure for this team, to let them, focus a little bit more on hockey?
Well, that's a tough call because I'm not in the locker room. I mean, he wasn't a cancer to the team as far as, he was a good teammate. Everybody enjoyed him. I mean, you could see on the ice that he was liked by his teammates. They liked playing with him. He played hard. But could it have been a distraction? I guess, yeah. And can they turn it around? Most definitely. I think, this team has talent. They're not devoid of anybody who can play the game. Just something in the chemistry isn't aligned, and maybe this will jog that chemistry, and maybe they'll go, take a deep breath and go, okay, well, that's over. This is our team. Let's make the best of it. And it's still early. I mean, are they going to make the playoffs? It's going to be tough, but it's still very, very early. And again, everybody reverts back to the Penguins a couple of years ago, and then St. Louis last year in January had the worst record in the league, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So, you have that to lean on. So, hopefully the Devils can lean on that too and say, we can turn this around.
Mm-hmm. So, Kevin, you have Anaheim coming up this Wednesday. Tomorrow, 2 days from now. It's Monday. You gonna be excited? You gonna be excited to see Henry come back again?
I don't mean to be
so
mean,
long
but
as he doesn't score. So long as he doesn't score on us.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you what, the time that he flipped the puck, it happened right in front of me too. He flipped the puck and got by Vatanen. It was just after he had been traded for Vatanen, and he kind of went around and scored. It was like, oh man, that one hurt. And the Devils ended up winning that night, which lessened the sting. But the ship has kind of sailed with him. I mean, it's been a couple of years now. He was a good Devil. Of course, he had one of the biggest goals in franchise history. But you hope he does well against everybody else, just not in our building or when our team is in their building.
Mm-hmm. So I have to ask you a question. This is a kind of an aside from Taylor Hall and all the stuff that's going on. I know somebody in the Facebook group wanted to ask about John Hines and his firing and what you think of Nazardine and what he's been doing with the team so far. Do you feel like Nazardine has a chance to hold on to this job next year, or do you think that the Devils are going to be on the market for a brand new a coach and a brand new culture?
Well, my answer to that is I think, as the general manager, you have to do your due diligence and see what's out there. However, I believe Elaine Nasreddine is auditioning, a good word, auditioning for the job right now. So, and that's a good opportunity for him. So, he's named the coach, and now he has over half a season to show what he can do. So that's a great opportunity for him. It's not like he's outside, sending his resume in, hoping he gets looked at, and or he's in the minor leagues and doing well with a minor league team and hoping a team sees him. He's actually at the NHL level, coaching and showing what he can do. So, kudos to him. I wish him all the luck in the world. I hope he's the greatest coach that the NHL ever sees.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you're Ray Shero, you have to do your due diligence and see what opportunities are out there with other coaches. You have to do that. That's with any employer. You have to find the best fit for your team. Maybe it's Elaine Nasreddine. Again, I hope it is. But again, you have to see what is available at the right time.
Yeah, and that's kind of piggytailing or dovetailing on that, whatever. Everyone was calling for Hines to be fired, but no one was giving any sort of replacement option. And I think that was what was so hard, and potentially why they kept him on for so long was there's really not much out there right now that's, coaches that are available to really replace him at this point in the season in order to have someone, like you said, that was NHL ready and, to step in. Nasreddine was probably the only likely possibility that was even out there on the radar.
Yeah, and there's a couple others out there that might be worthwhile looking at, but to keep it in house right now. And I think one of the things you find out with this coaching change is coaching the issue with not winning, or is it with the culture and the players not performing the way they should? I think you find that out with this hiring. With where we're at now, was it Hines' fault? It's hard to say that it was his fault after he was let go and then the team didn't respond all that well. But you're going to find out with this hiring kind of where, I don't want to say where the fault lies, but you can kind of gauge kind of where the chemistry of the team is at. Again, I use that word. Chemistry is such a hard thing to define in sports, but I think you can find out some of if the chemistry is at fault, is if they're missing a player or two, or if one or two players maybe don't belong here. I don't know, but I think with this coaching change, with Nasreddine coming in, you're keeping it in-house, and I think it gives and again, Nasredine's going to have plenty of time to show what he can do. But I think it shows that with the move that they're going to try and find out where the fault lies. And I don't like saying that because you hate to pin something on one person. But I think with the coaching change, you can find out more of where the fault lies. I have to say that. You can find out more of why the team is in the direction it is in now.
Hey, Kevin, before we let you go, just want to let you know that Shorts Guy and I found this really cool place where we can get banners at a very, very, very low price. So I think in honor of your 500th, and I haven't discussed this with the guys, so we're going to discuss it on air. I think we should have Kevin Clark banner night, and we'll make you a 500 banner and hang it at PJ Ryan's where we do our pregame podcasts. And we'll have to honor you, but you know that you have to be at the arena. So maybe this could be a little excuse to come on over, be like, hey, I got some Devils fans honoring me with a banner. We just won't tell them how much we're paying, but we'll make it and honor you, and we got to somehow figure a way to get you out there.
You mean they're not going to hang anything at the arena? You know, a big banner next to
They
the
should.
retired
Oh,
player.
They should.
No, that
you know what we
that's,
should.
That's very nice. I appreciate it.
You know what? You know what we'll do? If you go to Section 208, they never finished the building, so this is gigantic black hole there. So maybe we'll hang it there just to cover it up a little bit, decorate it, a little home decoration.
That would be appropriate. The black hole. That would be very appropriate. But no, guys, I appreciate that. It's something I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but it's something I'm very proud of. And, to be honest with you, it's pretty cool, for me that I got to be there for 500 games and the moments I've seen, and to be, I still pinch myself that I'm the guy doing it. And I mean that. It's like, Joe, Devils fan, gets to be behind the mic, and I've lasted for 500 games, and it's been a thrill. It really has been. And the best part, and people ask me, like, my favorite part is at the games. Is it this or the best part of this job is the people I get to meet. And I know that sounds corny and whatnot, but it really is. I've met such great people, and hockey people are great. Our fans are phenomenal. They're knowledgeable. They don't care for the BS. They're just good hockey fans. And our TV people, our radio people, I've gotten to meet them. I got to sit in pregame for a few seasons with Doc Emmerich and Chico Resch. The three of us just sit, listening to them tell stories, and I was on cloud nine. And then, I get to sit and talk about my team and yell out goals, and then I get to meet guys like you and you guys. Everybody's been so good to me. That's the thing. The people have been so good to me, and it's just like Lou Gehrig. I'm the luckiest guy on the face of the earth. It's been a thrill.
And we are lucky too, Kevin, to have you as our PA announcer. We'll see you soon. We'll see you Wednesday. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Great.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
You got it.
That is Kevin Clark on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline. Devils PA announcer just chiming in. I mean, I sent Kevin a text, and he's like, I'm there. I mean, the guy's busy. I mean, there's the Devils fan club thing going on right now with Arlette and Pete and this and that. And, it's really nice to have a good friend like Kevin come on and just, share some stories. And we really appreciate that. And Shorts guy, we got to make a banner now that I just let the cat out of the bag. I'll have to design it. Let me design it. You just have to get me that fake card so I can go out and do it. But that's between you and I.
Or you can just send me the file and I can take care of it as well.
Or I could do that. Yep.
And we were talking about Paul Mary before wearing his heart on his sleeve. Kevin Clark's another guy that wears his heart on his sleeve for this organization too. He is a fan first and employee second. But talk about a lucky guy. He's right. He was a fan, and then he gets to to have that job and to take that role. That's fantastic.
Hey guys, we're at the second hour right now of this special Woo report, and I'm gonna cue him up. We have another my doppelganger.
Are you talking about him?
Another podcaster on the Let's Go Devils podcast platform. You know him from the State of the Fan address. Nick Villano linked up with the Nova Product Design link down in Florida. Nick, how are you? We didn't even do a sound test yet. You hot swapped you in. We kicked Kevin off to put you on. How are you, man?
I mean, I was better this morning.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I saw Pucks and Pitchforks put out an article, and wasn't looking too positive.
We got 5 so far. We got 5 articles, and right now I didn't have time to change. So you got the hat, but the shirt and tie. It's party up top, business everywhere else.
Is that your pajamas that you're wearing?
Dude,
No, this is a real tie.
I gotta tell you what, man. It's really funny. We haven't been on at the same time in a long time, so this might put to bed the rumor that you and I are the same guy because we're two white guys with beards and glasses, and apparently we look alike.
Or this is just a video of a person, and you're timing it really well.
We try through the art of magic, right?
That's well above the budget. That's well above the budget for the Let's Go Devils podcast. We will report State of the Fan address to do that.
Oh man,
all right,
three worlds colliding at once.
So you guys have been talking about this for an hour. I've been bouncing around the world tonight between the articles and between a couple other things that I do, but I wanted to make sure that I made it on the Let's Go Devils State of the Woo report so I could give my opinion about what is going on right now. And also, I got new studio digs, got couple of these sound things. Got to show off the new digs here. So here's my opinion. And it's my opinion. You know what they say about opinions. Mine's always right. I don't know how did it take 4 days of wheeling and dealing to get this? Like, I feel like Ray Shero was like, "Oh, I got this Mercedes," and he went to sell it at a garage sale. Like, hey, you turned to former MVP, and I know he was a player who was kind of had some question marks between the injury history and his slow start this year. But if this was the return, why did you have to do it now? Why were you on this imaginary deadline? Even the roster freeze is 3 days away. So I'm just confused. Was there no good offer out there and you just thought they were never going to get better? Because that tells me, like, if nobody's giving up that much for Taylor Hall in December, I feel like that a team's going to give up more in February. We saw that last year with the Vegas Golden Knights and Mark Stone. Everybody was trying to balk at the Senators and say, well, you're going to lose them anyway, so we'll just wait you out. And especially Vegas, because Mark Stone said, I really don't want to go anywhere else but Vegas. And they still got Eric Brandstrom, an amazing defensive prospect, out of there. I don't know, like, how are you not going to Edmonton and saying, give me Philip Broberg and a first and we'll make this happen? And Edmonton not try pushing all the chips into the table. And the Devils are covering 50% of the trade. It's basically what they got is they got 5 Hail Marys. I don't want to call them Hail Marys, but you've got 2 Hail Marys. You got 2 maybes, and then you got one player who I saw a lot of people project as a third pairing defenseman. I don't know if y'all know this, but we have like 7 of those already. And we got like 3 in the minors and 2 in college and another one overseas. So I don't know why you do this on December 16th when even if you had to do it before the roster freeze, because, I don't know, maybe a lot of these teams, maybe the Colorado Avalanche are trying to sell their Taylor Hall jerseys right before Christmas, get them on that Amazon delivery, 2-day shipping before we got to, Christmas Day. They really want to, get that blitz of jerseys in there. If you trade them on December 19th, you still got 5 days to sell the merchandise and get everything to where it needs to be. So I don't understand why the 16th was the day and why this was the deal.
I mean, honestly, maybe there were some other things going on in the background that maybe he was kind of being forced to make this move. Maybe there was things that, we don't know about. And maybe ownership was basically like saying, like, we don't like him, get him out of here. We don't care what you get for him, just get him out of here. You know what I mean? So there could be other things that are brewing behind the scene. I can't tell you one way or the other because I don't know those information, or I don't know that information. Why, we were talking about it before. Why would you want to make this trade now when you could have possibly gotten more from a team that's desperately trying to make the playoffs or desperately thinks that they're going to make the, Stanley Cup Finals right before the trade deadline? Maybe Hall was just like, I'm not going to put in for you guys. Like, I'm not going to just show up and produce. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to mail it in. And then Shiro looks at it like, damn, dude, well, there goes our stock in this guy, because if he's not going to go out there and produce, and if he's not going to do anything for us, then what the hell are we going to get for him at the trade deadline? So who knows? I don't know. Honestly, I got to ask you, I think Kevin Ball is not as bad as people are projecting it to be. I feel like that kid might have more potential than people are putting on it. Or maybe that's just that's just blind optimism.
I mean, but what about Kevin Ball makes you think that?
I don't know. He's got a great name.
I mean, Kevin Ball's his ceiling to me, his ceiling, like hitting his ceiling forever is Tyler Myers, which is fine. Tyler Myers is fine, but I mean, Tyler Myers is not a player that I really want on my team. Everybody sees tall defensemen, they're like Zdeno Chara. It's like, no, that guy's like once in a generation talent. But to kind of go back on the Taylor Hall thing, Taylor Hall had 4 points in his last 4 games. So it's not like he definitely wasn't mailing it in. He was definitely severely trying. I mean, he wants to go to a good team. If he mails it in, he's going to go to a team that's going to take a chance on him like Columbus did last year. So he's really not going to have any chance to win a Stanley Cup. If he wants to go to a Stanley Cup contender, he's obviously was going to push and make a team like Colorado give that final piece to kind of get him. And I don't know. I do want to go back to one thing, though. And I have to be slightly angry with you guys because you did the thing that a lot of people do where they kind of hope and pray that there's a possibility that he could return after the season.
Not really. Nobody thinks that.
And I only said that
because it was tail end, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, because Kevin Clark had brought something up about free agency and stuff, and I just said that there is always the slight possibility, not that we're expecting it to happen, but that slight possibility is always there, no matter how small it is. But I know I don't think he's coming back. He made it pretty clear he didn't want to be here, and that he wasn't going to resign. So, but you know what? You never know.
Oh wait,
you really never know.
I don't mean to cut you off here, but what makes what makes you say it became pretty clear that he wasn't going to resign? Because I heard something today that told me different.
Wait, what did you hear?
Yeah, because
I don't have the best. This isn't my best source, but I did hear that there was an offer that was going to be made that was squashed by ownership. I don't know if that's true or not. So don't take that for fact, but I did hear that today. So maybe this wasn't a Hall thing. I'm trying. There's a lot of people who are saying a lot of things about Taylor Hall. There's a lot of character, and I'm not saying that you guys did that. I've seen a lot of other people destroy his character, call him a locker room cancer. And I've heard from a lot of people on the inside who are saying a lot of different things about that. I've heard a lot of people say that, if there are issues, he's the one that's not one of them. And every locker room has an issue. It's just like working at any job, like everybody's not going to get along, but I heard that he's far from the problem. So I don't think that he was as big of an issue as some say. And I think that honestly, I based on the things that I've heard, the thing that caused him to not resign was the fact that the team just fell apart. If this team had the opposite record, if they were, 27-5 or whatever it is, I think he's signed for 8 years right now, or 5 years, or something like that. But the fact that this team just fell apart right in everybody's hands, I don't think he asked for a trade, but I think he made it clear, I'm not going to sign in the middle of the season now. I think that, everybody's saying that Ferris doesn't like to sign in the middle of the season, he likes to drag it out. We have Mitch Marner to really know about that. Zach Bogosian is his other big money client. So I think we made those assumptions, but I think that he wanted that to happen. And then Hall might have been like, well, let's see what happens. And then the season happened. It went to hell. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to listen to my agent. That's what I think happened based on the dots that I'm connecting right now. Again, that's me connecting the dots. That's not me with, that's me hearing little pieces and trying to put together a puzzle. I don't know, what the truth is in that, but based on what I heard, that's where I'm kind of figuring out what happened here. So that's why I'm kind of upset, because you have this great asset. You have this player in Taylor Hall. You have this guy who in every single interview up until this season said he loves New Jersey. He loves the Devils. He loves this organization. Even when things were going to heck, and he did that end of the season interview where he said they need to get more talent and they need to do something. And he said that all before he was, the off season where he could have resigned. He was still saying how much he liked it here and how much everybody got along in the locker room and the team mentality that they have and the system that he liked in place and things like that. And I think that the Devils, and I wrote about this earlier this week, the Devils failed Taylor Hall. And the Devils failed us as fans. Do you know how much fun it would have been to watch Taylor Hall on a breakaway in the playoffs? Do you remember how much fun it was that one game, that one Tampa game where they won, where Taylor Hall scores and he just stares up at the ceiling and just takes in the fans, cheering for him and just kind of going off and doing all he can to carry that team. And, the Devils really were competitive with Tampa up until Sammy Vatanen got the concussion. And then they lost their top defenseman. And, you can't it's hard to stop Tampa as it is, let alone without your top guy when, the next guy up is Will Butcher and older Andy Green, Bevan Lovejoy, and Damon Severson. But, if Ray Shero could have timed it right with Schneider and Hall and get them a defense, then I don't think we're having any of these conversations. I think the conversation we're having right now is who should the Devils go after? Instead, we're looking at trying to get another number 1 overall pick. And we're looking at the return for Taylor Hall, which I don't like, but I'm excited for Nick Merkley, to be honest. I think that that's a player that just needs a change. And I think that he could be pretty good. I'm not excited about Kevin Ball. I'm just not. Like, when his name floated in rumors on Saturday, I looked him up. I kind of searched what his strengths and weaknesses are. And from what I can gather, he's big. And people like that because our defense is really small right now. But I think he's far away from the NHL. And when you're far away from the NHL, like 2 to 3 years, anything could happen that could make you never make the NHL.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but at this point, it's like it's done and over. So we can't, sit here and lament on what could have been, what was, and what is going to be. I guess the only thing that we could do is look forward. And if you could find any positivity out of this deal, what do you think is the bright lining? Because no offense, I understand you're not totally sold on this deal, and I understand that you're not thrilled with it pretty much at all. Try to find that silver lining and try to see what you feel is a positive about this trade.
So there are positives to this trade. I come out like a bat out of heck all the time. I apologize for that, but I don't think this is a complete and utter failure. He got a first-round pick. He got a couple chances with these prospects, and he got another pick that I kind of wish, the problem was that you couldn't get the what's the conditions, you couldn't get them for this year. I think they really needed to replace those picks that they lost for Gusev and Subban. But they have a lot of other pieces that they can use for that, like Vatanen and Wood and a couple other guys that are on expiring contracts. But my problem is that there's one player in this deal that could be ready next year, and that's Merkley. There's one player that I'm confused of why he's in this deal, and it's I'm going to say his name wrong. The one who's not Merkley or Ball. I think it's Sure. And then there's Ball, who is a question mark. He could be an NHLer. I think he can be, somebody who makes teams. I don't think that they got anybody to build around, including that first round pick. But here's the positive spin on this, is that what this deal now tells me is that maybe the Devils aren't in for the long-term rebuild that we think. If they went for just picks and he did a pick-focused thing, or if he went for one really, really, really young player, like saying, I mean, I would have traded for, like, I'm just throwing this guy out there, but like Bowen Byram, I would have traded Bowen Byram 1-for-1 for Hall. But they're probably not doing that because they're, he's one of the best prospects. But I'm saying if you get a guy who's 18 years old and that is like the centerpiece of your deal. But what this tells me is that Shero doesn't want to sit and wait and do another rebuild. He's going to take the Devils' really high pick, which is probably going to be in the top 5. He's going to select a really good player, and then he's going to, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like he could take that first round pick from the Coyotes. I think he could flip it for a player right before the draft. And if you could flip it for the right player, and I'd have to, I mean, I haven't done this because I've been so focused on the Taylor Hall stuff, but I got to look at how contracts work out, salary caps work out, who's going to be willing to give up a defenseman. But I mean, you look at the Jacob Trouba trade that the Rangers made, and that was centered around a first round pick. It was one of their other first round picks. I think it was the one that they gave up for Kevin. I have Kevin Clark stuck in my head. The guy who's on the Flyers now. The center that they traded to Winnipeg, and now he's on the Flyers. But anyway, they traded a first-round pick to Winnipeg, and that was the centerpiece of the Jacob Trouba deal. I feel like that the Devils could make a similar trade like that, and then just like that, I think they're fine. They go out, they build around Mackenzie Blackwood, they get, these pieces do have the talent to work. I think that they just needed the right coach and the right chemistry. And I think John Hynes was too deep in his tenure at the time to make it all work with the system he had in place. So they have a chance to get a new coach. There's a lot of good coaches that are going to be available because we've already had, 4 firings already. Obviously, 2 of those you don't want to deal with because it's firing for a reason beyond hockey. But you got, DeBoer got fired, and then you got the other firings that are going to happen. So you got, I'm sure Detroit probably will make a coaching change, and Tampa might make a coaching change, and other places like that. So you get the coach in, you bring him here, you get that big defenseman with that first round pick and maybe another prospect, maybe a Zetterlund or like a mid to top tier prospect. And then you get a backup goalie. Yaroslav Halak and Robin Lehner are both free agents in the end of the season. You bring them in to, split 60-40 with Blackwood for that first season. I think Blackwood is fine as a goalie. I think he could eventually turn into something. He's still only 22 years old. So I think that the Devils are in a good position right now. I thought they'd be in a better position with Hall. But I still think that they can do something with this roster. And I think today's trade shows that maybe they feel that way too. And they're looking towards the immediate future of how they can flip those assets again into NHL players next year. Maybe that's what they were looking for. Maybe what they were looking for wasn't a star of the future. Maybe they were looking for a guy who can be flipped into an NHL player in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, there's the potential is there, and like you said, just at this point, it's just kind of what can they do with what they have, and it's like I said before, it's over and done with. So Taylor Hall's out the door. This opens the door up for people like Mike McLeod to really put a staple and make a mark on this team.
Of course.
I feel like the 2 points were. The other night that he had in Arizona were just a prelude of what we're going to see from Mr. McLeod. And maybe we give him number 9 now that that's available. And,
maybe not.
Last couple number 9s haven't done well.
Yeah.
Do you want to see him right out the door too?
McLeod 9.
So I like that. I do like that. But I will say this is that I think that, you have Joey Anderson who's having a pretty good season in Binghamton, and you have Mike McLeod, who looked like an NHL player the past 2 games and had really good chemistry with Boquist. And that's been hard to find this season. So maybe you just needed to find the right fit. And Alain Nasruddin made changes, which I like to see. Like that power play didn't pass back barely at all. And so it shows that he sees that there was issues and is kind of making moves based on those issues. So seeing these young players, Brett Saney came up earlier, but he's a guy who's had a lot of luck down there. And there's just a lot of interesting players in Binghamton right now. Even though they're having a rough season, they still have some interesting players. They're just the same as the NHL Devils, just have a rough defense, and the goaltender situation is on and off depending on the night.
That's a $6 million problem down in Binghamton now.
You're going to buy that out. That's getting bought out in the offseason.
You're buying it out. Listen, he got sent down, and I'm not bagging on Corey, and it is what it is, and it sucks because he always had that hope that he would turn it around. But Corey got sent down to Binghamton, and it just looks just as bad as it did in the NHL, maybe even worse, because now you're letting up goals to AHL talent, and it's not everybody's that step away from being from the NHL. It sucks.
That and Domingue gets hurt, and he's not the first guy called up too.
And
they called up the guy in the ECHL.
Yeah,
rightfully so. Though you cannot sit back and say they should call up Corey Schneider because he's making $6 million a year. That dude just let up like 5 goals in one period the other night. You know what I mean? Like whatever the hell he's doing down in the AHL ain't working either. So why would you even bring him up? Because it's going to be a guaranteed loss every time he steps in the crease. And you can't blame the defense anymore.
But that's what I'm saying, that, Domingue gets hurt as the backup. That just shows how far down the depth chart he has now become, because they don't even look to call him up.
Well, it's because I feel like that also in part is because he has to work through his issues, and they're just going to ride it till the wheels come off. And you can't do that in the NHL because Blackwood has to get starts. Blackwood has to get used to an NHL schedule. So I think that's part of it, because it's weird that they didn't call up Sen. They skipped Sen and went right to Adirondack and pulled up Cormier. So
yeah, but Cormier got called up last year, and maybe that's what they're banking on, is that the fact that he's already got that NHL experience under his belt.
Maybe that's true. And I don't think Sen is anywhere near ready for NHL action. Maybe they saw Cormier last year, and he's used to kind of the protocols of being in the NHL, for that short stint that he was here. But I agree. I think that. Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, oddly enough, isn't he wearing, when he came up to the NHL last year, was he wearing 70, which was Domingue's number when he came up? I could be dead wrong about that, but it's just kind of a weird coincidence.
I can look it up, but
yeah,
I don't know.
All I know is, the way that this team looks right now, and me trying to always be the optimistic about what the Devils are doing, or what the hell's going on with this
50.
organization.
I found that he was wearing 50.
All right, 50. But either way, Taylor Hall being gone, it could change the way that this team looks. It could change the way that this team operates. Who knows what was going behind closed doors? And that's the thing is the three of us, no matter what kind of inside information that we have, or no matter what kind of ear to the ground that we might have, there's things that we'll never know. There's conversations that we'll never know. There's behind the doors conversations that players have that they don't leak out into the media. Maybe there was guys that, felt the pressure of making him, want to be a part of this team, because there was always that thing that Taylor Hall did say. And he said and I brought this up earlier, last year, he says, we have a good team, but we just lack talent. And if I'm on that team, I'm going to say this. That would have pissed me off, because it would have been like, hey, listen, what are you trying to say? I can't skate with you. I can't play with you. You don't think I'm as talented as you are? Or you don't think, well, obviously I'm not as talented as you are. But you know what I'm saying is maybe there are some underlying things that will release a little bit of pressure. This team will start to kind of feel themselves out. And who knows? The future is unknown, right? Unless you own a DeLorean. And that book. And that book that Biff tries to steal from you.
Well,
and you get it back.
Now you
you
have to have someone step up into that role that Taylor Hall was playing. So now we're going to see who's going to step up and who wants to be the face of the franchise now. And
Nico Hischier, that too.
Well, someone's got to step up and someone's got to be that guy. So who's it going to be? And that's what we're going to find out now that the Taylor Hall trade is done and taken care of. We're going to see who steps up. We're going to see what happens with this team as we go forward.
Hey guys, we have a special guest coming on right now from Pucks and Pitchforks, also known as Tyler Kelly on the Bobby's Auto Care Hotline. Tyler, you're with Sam, Beer Baron, Shorts Guy, and Nick. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you?
Great,
Pretty
Tyler.
good.
All things considering, with the trade that just went down and everything else, we got Nick's opinion about it. We got Sam's. We got mine. We got Shorts Guy. Let her rip, buddy. What do you think?
I mean, I'm a little disappointed in the return, but there's a lot that can happen going forward. There's three ways I see the trade going that it becomes a win for the Devils, and it's either they use Arizona's first-round pick on a guy who becomes a big part of the franchise, or they trade it for immediate NHL help next year in the offseason, or Hall actually becomes a good player, and he ends up in Devils top four. So one of those three things has to happen for this to be a win for the Devils, because I don't think Nick Merkley is somebody that we can bet on going forward. I don't think Nate Schnarr is somebody we can bet on going forward. And that conditional pick, you're looking at realistically at the second round pick. And I don't think anybody really expects Taylor Hall to re-sign in Arizona. No offense. I love the Coyotes, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm a little bit disappointed in the return, but I've gotten it tweeted at me, say like at least 40 times that something is better than nothing, and that's a fact. It's better than him walking in free agency, and I appreciate all he did for the franchise, taking us back to the playoffs, getting that Hart Trophy. But it was time to move on, and I'd rather not pay him for 7 years at $10 million per year. So it all worked out in the end, hopefully for the Devils. But there's three ways that this trade can become a win.
So Tyler, like you said, you might not be thrilled with the return, and you're not a big fan of Merkley. So what do you think is going to be the biggest piece of this in 5 years? In 5 years, what are we going to look back upon and be like, oh, this is the biggest thing that came out of the Taylor Hall trade?
Probably the first round pick, depending on what they do with it. If the Coyotes actually, make the playoffs and go on a decent run, you're looking at a late first rounder, and Ratio's success rate on anything after first overall in the first round is pretty bad. So there's not a lot of optimism on my part there. But if he uses it for an actual NHL player, say he trades it for somebody who's expiring an RFA or whatever next year, then that player will probably be a part of the team's future. So that probably is the best potential. I do think that Kevin Ball probably makes the NHL. I think he's more of a third pairing guy, but he could be a top four guy, but probably a third pairing guy. So I think the success of this trade really hinges on that first round pick, and we'll see what they do with that.
Tyler, not to step away from the Taylor Hall situation or the whole trade or everything else that's going on, I just want to address with you something else that's kind of going on with this team in the coaching situation. If you, and I was going to ask this to Nick before as well, if you had a dream candidate to take over the job for the New Jersey Devils and kind of steer this ship into the right direction, who do you think that would be?
I'm going to butcher his name because I'm not even 100% on how to pronounce it, but I've talked about him a few times before, and it's Rickard Gronberg. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Don't hold it against me if I butcher his name. First, he has a sick beard, but aside from the beard, he's coached Sweden for a long time, and right now he's coaching in the Swiss League. He's coaching for the Lions in the Swiss League, and he's got a really forward-looking, kind of a more progressive coaching style. And it's not even realistic to look at him for next year because I know he's actually under contract for next year as well. And I don't think he has an NHL out, so I don't know what the Devils would have to do to get him. But he's had a lot of success coaching over in Europe. He's coached Sweden for a really, really long time. He did start out coaching in the U.S. too. He coached a little bit in the NCAA. So he's got some good experience, and he's done great internationally. So I would love it if the Devils somehow brought him over. I think there's definitely an issue with NHL teams using retreads. And I think we may see that next year. We may see Ray Shero realistically go give Dan Bialsma a call. You know, they're buddies. They had some success in Pittsburgh together. So maybe that's the direction he goes. But my dream candidate is definitely Gronberg.
So just to kind of go off that, from what I've heard, but I think this is a lot of speculation, is that there's not an NHL out for Gronberg because the Lions want to get paid to let him out of his contract. And if they didn't put the out, if they put the out in there, they'd get nothing. So I guess that what the Devils would have to do is like go there and give them whatever sum of money that it takes to get him out of his contract and buy out his deal.
Yeah, which makes sense, and then it comes down to the owners. Do they want to pay for this coach or not? And I don't think they're scared of spending money. So if Shero thinks he's the coach of the future, then I'm sure they'd be willing to buy out that contract to bring him over. And I think he is probably going to be the best available coach in this offseason. So who knows?
So let me ask you one. Oh, yeah. Let me just ask one thing real quick.
Go ahead.
Going back to Hall, and I know you've hated the idea of signing him, and me and you have kind of been on different sides of this. Do you think that he's going to get the contract that we think he was going to get in free agency when he was with us? Or do you think that based on how this all played out and what teams are willing to give up for him, do you think that kind of alludes to what kind of contract he's going to sign in the offseason?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, do teams value Artemi Panarin that much more than Taylor Hall? Like, that's basically what it's going to come down to, because they're really similar players. And we saw Panarin get exactly what he wanted this offseason. I mean, Panarin has that $11.6 million contract. So what's to say Taylor Hall, who is a very, very similar player results-wise, to Artemi Panarin, is going to get anything less? If he goes into the open market, there may not be a lot of teams that can give him that money, but I'm sure someone will. Teams always overpay in free agency. And I'm not even saying giving Taylor Hall $10 million is necessarily an overpay, but I wouldn't have wanted to give him 7 years at over $10 million. I was not a fan of that. If he signed it, if the Devils signed him, I would have been okay with it, but I wasn't, lose my mind to try and, hope that happened. But somebody will pay him. And maybe he doesn't get the 7 years that he wants. Maybe he ends up in Colorado with the Avalanche and he gets what Sakic offered Panarin last year, which was, I think, 5 years at 11 point whatever million. So maybe he ends up signing for less years and getting his money, which would make sense. He does have some issues that the teams may not like, whether injury issues or, people like to spread rumors about players. So, who knows? But I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to get $10+ million easily. He may not get 7 years. He'll get $10+ million.
So, Tyler, you're not thrilled with the return we got for Hall. So, realistically, what do you think we could have got that would have been a better deal?
I don't think they could have gotten anything else. So it's not like I'm mad at Ray Shero or the Devils for the return. I'm just disappointed. We know that they were talking to Colorado, and the player that the Devils wanted from Colorado was Connor Timmins, and Colorado wouldn't budge. And so that's how we ended up where we are. And I think the major sticking point, and maybe part of my issue with the Devils in this scenario, is that it seems like they really wanted to get at least 4 pieces. They wanted to be a big package. And if I was in Ray Shero's shoes for the past 6 days or whatever, I probably would have preferred to get a higher end prospect, somebody who's more NHL ready, like Connor Timmins, somebody who would have been great to pair with Ty Smith going forward. And, maybe you just get Timmins in that first round pick. But the Devils went with quantity over quality. They got 3 prospects, and they're going to pray one pans out, and then they got a pick, and they're going to pray that works out for them too. And it's like they're just throwing darts here. And I don't hate the approach. I would have liked one higher end prospect versus 3 lower end prospects, but teams weren't. Obviously, Arizona wasn't going to give up Soderstrom. They weren't going to give up Hayton. So there's not much you can do there. There were other prospects I would have preferred from Arizona, but the Devils took 2 players who are going to jump right into the AHL, and maybe hopefully Merkley jumps into the NHL. I'd like to see the Devils give him a shot in the NHL for the rest of the year. There's no reason to play a Hayden or a Rooney over someone like Merkley. So I'd like to see him get a shot in the NHL the rest of the year. But going for quality and over quantity would have been what I preferred, but they went with quantity, and I understand the approach. I get it. It's tough with prospects. You never know if they're going to pan out or not. And they wanted more. It's like lottery tickets. The more you buy, the better chance you have of winning money. But you still can end up making nothing. So I would have gone for a lesser package. And we don't even know that Colorado would have been okay with doing just Timmins in their first round pick. It seems like they really, really value Timmins, and that's why we are where we are today. But and I think they had to move Hall too. Like at this point, it's better for the team. We saw how they played. I'm not gonna say they played great, but they looked re-energized. I haven't even watched the Colorado game on TV yet because I think I just got out of that 48-hour blackout window. But I was in attendance for the game, and I was shocked with how they looked in the first and the third periods. They were great. So the team kind of does look different without Hall, and it was a dark cloud floating over the team. So I think they made the right move. And there's a ton of potential in this deal for it to work out.
So my next question to you is, first of all, it took everything in my body not to say that's what she said when you were talking about getting a bigger package. But anyways, one of the things that you look at, sorry, I had to do it. One of the things you look at this team as they stand now, whether they go forward and they start putting together a couple of winning streaks, or whether they kind of continue in this win 1, lose 2 kind of phrase where they're trending towards a first overall pick. Do you see any other potential moves? I know there's been Miles Wood's name has been brought up. Simmons' name has been brought up. PK Subban. Unfortunately, Kyle Palmieri, who I adamantly hope they do not trade. Do you see the Devils making any other additional moves, whether it be between now and the freeze or now and the trade deadline?
I don't know if they'll make any moves before the freeze at this point. I think this is the first domino, and I think after the freeze it'll start picking right back up again. But yeah, I would expect Sammy Vatanen will probably get traded. Wayne Simmons definitely going to get traded. Well, I say definitely, but I would say there's a really strong chance Wayne Simmons gets traded. We know that they've been floating Miles Wood's name out there, so we'll see if he ends up going. I'm sure Wood will be somebody closer to the deadline, and he'll be one of those pickups where it's a team just wants that bottom 6 depth, and the Devils will get more value than I think we expect from Miles Wood. But so I would expect Miles
second
Wood
rounder
to be moved. I don't know if they'll get a second rounder, maybe like a Pat Maroon type trade, but we'll see what they get, and then. Maybe a team takes a chance on a John Hayden. He's an RFA next year. Who knows? I don't really necessarily know that he has a future in New Jersey, so why not? And then as for Andy Green, it's up to him. He has a no trade. So if he wants another shot at a cup and he's planning on retiring next year, this is it. So if teams are interested, that's entirely on him. And I would not be surprised at all if they ended up moving him to give him one last shot at a cup if he's planning on retiring. If not, then maybe they let him finish out the year, and he maybe they bring him back next year. We'll see. But I would expect Green, if he wants to go, he'll go. So there's that's the Devils did trade. I mean, they don't have their second and third round pick this year, so you can expect moving all those, you're going to get that second-round pick back. You're going to get that third-round pick back. They're going to have a high first-round pick. And then they have the extra Coyotes first-round pick. So then they move that for an NHLer, and they've recouped all their draft picks. And it's not great, but they have the foundation to build around. They have Jack. They have Nico. So it's there. It's just, what are they going to do with it? And you did bring up Palmieri, too. That wouldn't surprise me. I think they get really good value because he has that extra year, but his shooting talent is going to be really, really hard to replace. So I don't think I would necessarily want to move him. It would have to be a deal that just absolutely blows the Devils away, I think. But I do think he's a really important part of this team.
So the one player I noticed that, or maybe I didn't hear it, but I've seen floated, and I'm kind of asking this to everybody because I kind of want to gauge the interest in this, is I know a lot of people have talked about the possibility of them, and this is from other teams. Other teams have talked about acquiring Travis Zajac. What are all the guys, what are your thoughts on trading Travis Zajac right now?
I'll answer. I would move him if he wants to go. And Travis has been great here. I did not talk highly of him a few years ago, but he's in a good role. But if teams want him, you can get value for him, move him, and then let Zaka jump into that 3-center role. So,
honestly, I kind of feel the same. Zajac is one of those guys that I've always
Did Beer Baron freeze?
Yes.
All right.
His feed dropped. Yeah.
We were right on the edge of something good too.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. And I'll pick up. If we can get value for him, and he wants to go, I would, as a fan, hate to see him go. But if we can get a return for him, and he wants to leave, and we can send him out. He's one of those players that's really likable, and you would hate to see leave, and you kind of do want to have that veteran presence around all these younger guys too, to kind of show them the ropes and show them how to be true NHLers. And him and Palmieri, they kind of fall into that mix along with Simmons, and you would hate to see this young group of guys have no one there to guide them, to become the core that we all hope and believe that they can be. But yeah, if we can get something for him and he wants to go, it's going to help the team in the long run. I'm for that as well.
Did Beer Baron freeze again?
He may have. He was moving for a little bit.
Oh, okay. We should zoom in on him. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so just to reiterate what Schwarzkopf was saying, as a fan, I don't want him to go. But you know what? It's also, probably Zajac in his mind. I think he wants to win a cup too. He's been with the New Jersey Devils and those are the tough choices you have to make. Family, stability in New Jersey, but at the same time, you're in it to win it, and having a chance to win the cup is huge. So, did everybody freeze?
No,
I'm still here.
Mine
Beer Baron. Finish your thought, Beer Baron, or what?
No, my thought being just I would hate to see Zajac go, but at the same time, he's one of those guys that really put in a lot. I've always been a huge Zajac fan. But to trade him to somebody that could possibly win a cup and to see him raise a Stanley Cup, I think would be amazing. Same thing with Andy Green. I know he has a no trade contract or a no move contract or whatever the hell, you know what I'm talking about. Either of those guys, it would be nice if you gave him the opportunity to go to a team that could win or giving them the potential of like raising a Stanley Cup. It would suck to see them do it in a different uniform, but I feel like they deserve it. I feel like they've done amazing things and for this organization, have been here for a very long time, and maybe they're owed their due. So it's kind of how I feel about it. Close it out there, Nick.
Okay. My last point is just that I do think at the end of the day, this moving Taylor Hall before the roster freeze was the right move because it was a black cloud over the team. I don't think he in general was. I just think just the waiting was too much. So I think that was. I think it was necessary to make this move. I think that maybe in time, I know I reacted pretty negatively to this trade, but we really shouldn't completely make our decision on Ray Shero until the beginning of next season to see what he does with all these pieces. So that's kind of my final thought on it. Patience is a virtue, one that I usually don't have, but maybe we should try to display it here.
Yeah, but in a sense, we had all these pieces, and we were hoping that this season they would all fall in together. So we're kind of stuck where we are last year again, going into next year. Looking at all these pieces,
definitely.
we have pieces. And I a lot of the fan base, and I'm sure the four of us included, and Tyler, you as well. We're tired of looking at pieces, and that's what it's going to come down to as well. Like, we're tired. We got all these pieces now. It's how and when are they going to all fall together? Finally, like, when are they going to fall together? Are they going to fall together? All these questions are just looming out there, and then we want results now. Like you said, that playoff game at home against Tampa Bay, I was there for that one. That was fantastic to be at. It was one of those things. It was like, wow, it felt like, the old days, all over again. Finally, we were back. And then that was a fleeting moment. We had that in the very first period and a half of the game. Home opener against the Jets. That was there, and all of a sudden it went crashing down, and it feels like it's been spiraling down ever since. So I'm with you. We have a lot of pieces. I cannot wait for these pieces to come together. And you're right, patience is a virtue. I've got patience, but I know there's a lot out there who don't. It sounds like you included, Nick, that they want to see these pieces put together now.
I mean, the unfortunate reality of it is that we have a great down the middle, but that down the middle is, if you include McLeod, is 22, 21, 20, and 18. So, it's going to take some time for that to develop into what we hope is going to be something great. But I don't know. It just seems like maybe we, I don't know. Do you guys think we won the Hall for Larson trade? I mean, the Oilers at least got that one magical run to the Western Conference Finals.
I don't think anybody won.
Yeah.
Tyler, Tyler, close this out with your thought, my friend. What do you think? Who won that trade? The Hall Larson trade, the 1-for-1.
The Devils. The Devils got the better player, and no doubt the better player, and it didn't work out, and that's not because of the Taylor Hall for Adam Larson trade. And it's not like the Edmonton Oilers made that run solely because they acquired Adam Larson and traded away Taylor Hall. They made that run because they made that run. But, the Devils got Taylor Hall, who was still a top 5 left wing in the game, and he's not a Devil anymore. But now, moving forward, they have what's left from trading him, and just evaluating that deal in a vacuum, the Devils won that trade. They got the better player without a doubt, no question. So.
Tyler clearly hasn't been talking to Edmonton media, because they'll tell you that they made that run specifically because of the Taylor Hall for Adam Larson trade.
I think I've muted every Edmonton media member on Twitter.
All right, but thank you, Tyler, for coming on, jumping on short notice, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good one. Thank you.
That is Tyler Kelly of Pucks and Pitchforks blog, giving us his insight. He was great on the Woo Report when we did that after the post game at Tavern on the Rocks, talking Taylor Hall trade rumors, the whole thing with Colorado when that first came out. These things happen. You're never going to get it right because things can change. Teams can jump in. Offers change. circumstances change, but it's always good to get like what's the latest happening now. I love all the speculation, but at the same time, some of the people, some of the reports I saw from others, I was like, how's that going to work? But you just never know. You just never know.
Yeah, with him being in that contract year, I really don't think that there was much more we could have gotten. You know, I don't know. I just don't see them even at the deadline. It just seems like the Devils would be the. I just don't see any team that was worth or that was, you know, making a run wasn't going to give up much to. They want to gain more than they're going to lose. There was no. I don't know if there's more that we could have gotten. I know last year was, you know, different, but I don't know. I just don't believe that there was much more.
You know what? I agree, and like I said, we might not have an inside ear to what was going on in the locker room because maybe there was something else going on. Maybe there was, you know, demands that were being made from upstairs. Maybe there was demands being made from who knows. The only thing I can hope for and be like, you know, just trying to pull any kind of silver lining from this entire situation is maybe this will lighten the load on the team and they will take a different approach to how they play. Nasruddin will have, no, you know, he won't have to answer these questions of, you know, Taylor Hall sitting out or this, that, and the other thing, and let the guys play and just see where the season kind of unfolds. Hell, if we end up getting a top, you know, number one overall pick again, so be it. At this point, what's done is done. Let's move on. Let's close the chapter of Taylor Hall. Thanks for everything. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for the playoff run, you know, the playoff series against Tampa Bay and for that incredible MVP season that you had and the point streak and everything else. And as a fan, we'll never be able to thank you enough for that. And we're going to miss that. But at the same time, c'est la vie. See you later. Have fun in Arizona. Turn the page and let's move on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that sentiment. But of course, there's going to be a lot of people who kind of, I mean, Taylor Hall is going to go on a run because he's had a run in him all season, and it's just been kind of bad luck why he's been so bad. And I could see him scoring 10 goals in January. Like, I think that a run's
100%.
coming.
Yeah, and Devils social media, people on social media are
blow
going to lose their minds. It's going to.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
I love watching that.
Yeah, but you don't run a.
Thing is like, whatever, man.
You don't run a blog that gets messages and comments and all the other things. Although you run the podcast, so you get to read that. So it's going to be interesting. I'm happy it's over. I will say that. I'm not thrilled with the return. I'm going to dig deeper tonight. I'll have more of that on Wednesday. And I'm also going to talk about kind of why we should have expected Ray Shero to get a bad return all along. And I'll have that for you on Wednesday on the State of the Fan Report.
Very
Awesome.
cool, man. Hey, this is fun
awesome.
bringing all three universes together, right?
Yeah, right?
Absolutely. I have something to plug.
What do you got, Sam?
Wednesday and Friday, I'll be at PJ Ryan's for some pregame podcasting. So Wednesday, I'll be doing pregame podcasting, then wrap it up, and then fly to the Bunker Studios somewhere in New Jersey in an undisclosed location. Right now, I'm in the war room right now. So I'll be ready for State of the Fan address by 9 p.m. We're going to go a little bit after the game. Or are we going during the game, Nick? We didn't even discuss that yet.
We're probably going to go during the game, I would assume. Who's watching Devils games without Taylor Hall?
I am.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm going
Maybe
to
more attentively because my man Mike McLeod.
I'm rooting for him.
Next trade, Mikey McLeod.
No.
Bro, were you trying to rip my heart out?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, breaking news. It just came in on Twitter. I was kind of searching through Twitter. Ilya Kovalchuk has been claimed off of waivers. by the Atlanta Thrashers. According to the Atlanta Thrashers, Twitter account, which is still, if you want to read something really funny, that whatever a fake Atlanta Thrashers account that's out there, they usually write some really funny things. So but that popped
He's
up
going
on my
back to
laughing.
he's
Going
going back
back
to
home.
the nasty nest.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we're going home.
All right, we want to thank Kevin Clark and Tyler Kelly for coming on at such short notice. Thank you, Beer Baron, Nick, and Shorts Guy. I had to beg you guys to do a podcast. No, I didn't. You guys were cool. You guys all jumped on. All right, Devils fans, we want to thank YouTube Live. I actually had some positive comments in there. I was actually pleased. We had a lot of viewers.
Positive comments about you?
Not about me, just a lot of positive comments. Also, Twitter, Periscope, and Facebook Live. It's been a great 2-day run. But that concludes the Woo Report. Till next time, Devils fans, let's go Devils!